I made profit on today's trades, but I technically shouldn't have made profit. And I'm going to tell you exactly why. So we're going to go back to the trade I actually took, and it is quite simple. I'm not going to go into more detail about the trade because that's not really the point of this video. It's not going to be a full technical analysis. If you do want to look at technical analysis, this video is not for you. You can go check out my mentorship for that. But we were looking to sell from this area, and then when price came into this area, I then market executed and entered my short position. And if you have been a subscriber on any of my channels or any of my social media platforms, you'll most likely be aware that I have this scale in plan where, let's say, for example here, if price goes up immediately like this, I can then scale in. But I'm not adding an extra 1% risk. So let's say my 10 pip stop loss, price goes up 7 pips or 7.5 pips. I enter with the same lot size as the original position. So I'm actually risking 1.25% to make, an extra 3% rather than risking 2%. So it basically changes my risk to reward from a 1 to 3 to a 1 to 6.75, which in my opinion is quite a good payoff. And, risking an extra 0.25% to make an extra 3.75% is pretty good. But a slight mistake I made today meant that I didn't make that 6.75%, and in the end I actually made 2%, which I'm going to show you now. And this isn't something saying you should do this too. I know that scaling in for most people is probably not a good idea because most people don't have a decent win rate. Most people don't actually test scaling in or test their strategy before taking it live. This is something I have extensively tested, so it's not like every single setup I'm scaling in. And I do have various different strategies for personal capital, long-term personal capital, and then challenge accounts and funded accounts. This was on a prop firm account, so it's not the type of trades I was taking on my personal accounts, and that is why I am happy to scale in and add a little bit more risk, because at the end of the day, if I lose $1,000, I don't actually lose $1,000. $1,000 doesn't come off my net worth or my account balance. It just means I'm $1,000 away from getting that payout, if that makes sense. I hope that does make sense anyway. So this was the original position here. Then we're going to move price onwards, and you'll see how close it got to the stop loss. And this is the thing I actually want to talk about. So based on the trade right here, on the trading view, it didn't hit the stop loss, but I think my entry must have been something like this. If I just check my original entry, it was 858, somewhere up here. But the original entry got stopped out, and that's what I'm here to say. But before price actually made this push up, so before this candle was actually closed, I entered my second position with an entry at 919. So at this point here, which meant that my TP, however far down it was down there, was obviously quite large. But you need to remember it's not a 1 to 10, it's actually a 1 to 3.75 or whatever. But this one would actually be 3.65. So I'm actually risking, when I actually entered this position, 1.35% of my account. And like I said, the risk to reward does make it acceptable. But this second position here, what I actually did, when you drag your stop loss up to the level, I dragged it slightly higher by accident. So I just dragged it on my computer, dragged it, dropped it, and that was it. So then when I went to look at the trade, and if you look what happened after this, you can see that then price did melt to the downside and did end up hitting the take profit. So the second position actually made profit, the one that scaled in, but the first position actually lost. But technically, based on where the stop loss should have been, they both would have been stopped out. So because I dragged it up slightly more by accident, and that could have been 0.1 pips, 0.2 pips, 0.5 pips, whatever it was, I obviously accidentally risked more. It's not a huge amount, but I risked, let's see how much more this is. Yeah, 0.2 pips more, which again, it's not a great deal, but technically I should have lost money today. I should have lost money. I should have lost 1.35%, but overall I actually ended up making 2% or just over 2% or $2,000 or whatever it was from this trade. So the moral of the story here is in trading, making profit doesn't mean you've had a good trading day. I could have lost on today's trade, but I followed everything completely perfectly and actually had a good trading day overall. If you follow the plan, but you lose, and it wasn't anything that was in your control, the reason that you lost, then in my opinion, that is a good trading day. But if you actually win and you do something wrong, that technically is a good trading day for your bank and for your net worth because you made money, but you shouldn't have traded that way. Obviously, this isn't a mistake and something I broke my rules on, but it is just quite interesting how one slight 0.1 pip movement can mean that I made money on the day. And that is why I said I probably shouldn't have made money today, but I ended up making money today, which is a bonus. And I'm obviously happy with it because I made profit, but it does show that when people just drag their stop loss, oh, it's about 10 pips, or dragging it up, oh, you know, when they get their entry slightly wrong when they've entered and they just drag the stop loss up, this just shows that if you're being precise, then, you know, it can make a difference. This obviously was 0.1 pip difference and it ended up making me money instead of losing me money. So it's quite an interesting scenario today that I actually wanted to share with you guys. I'm not saying to scale in like this. I'm not saying to drag your stop loss up a little bit further to win positions, but it happened today and I just thought you guys might find it interesting. If you like these little stories of what's happening in my trading, wins or losses, I'm happy to talk about it. And let me know if you want to see more little videos like this. So yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one.